Hey, good morning, everybody. I want to thank you all for joining us. I hope you guys can hear everybody okay. Thank you for joining this month's Formax webinar. We'll be going over the Cut True Guillotine Cutter lineup. My name is Sean Simmons, Dealer Account Executive here at Formax. And today we'll be going over the Cut True 23S, the Cut True 28A, and then the Cut True 29A. Just real quick, the three main things that we want to focus on for our cutters is that they're really durable, they're really safe to use, and they're very competitively priced. That's going to be the main hierarchy points of this webinar today. So just a brief overview of the Cut True 23S. This is the replacement machine that replaced the Cut True 22S, one of our best-selling cutters, but we felt like the quality of the product didn't match the quality of the machine. So we kind of did some changes to it. We made it look better, made it look nicer, something we're more proud of and something we want you as dealers and customers to be proud of as well. So as you can see, new look and feel, but starting from the bottom up, you have the stand here at the bottom. The stand on the Cut True 22S was an 8-piece stand, so you can imagine how kind of annoying it would be to build 8 pieces before you can get started. What we did is we switched that. It's now a 4-piece stand, much easier to get started, much easier to build for those servicing dealers and for those customers. Moving up, you have your handles here on the side of the machine. This is great. It has 2 on each side, easy lifting onto that stand, or you could even use this as a tabletop unit. It is important to note that the stand for this machine is included, unlike some of the competitors out there where that stand doesn't come included or it's at an extra cost. I mentioned safety at the start of the webinar here, and moving over to the plexiglass cover, it's one of the 3 key features of safety on this machine. So once you do lift this safety cover up here, this won't be able to cut. You will not be able to cut as you're adjusting your paper. That blade will not be able to go down. Once you bring it down here, you'll notice that it's flush with the front of the machine. That's one of the changes we made between the 22S and the 23S. So the 22S used to have that plexiglass cover hang out about an inch or so over that front of the machine. And that could sometimes get in the way of that manual back gauge you have right here. So we decided to make it flush to give it a cleaner, a better feel for the machine, if you will. Moving on to the front of the machine, you have your second key point of safety where it's that 2-button operation. So if I get in front of the machine to make a cut, you'll notice my hands are away from the blade at all times, so you're going to be safe and your hands won't ever be in danger of getting cut. The third key feature for safety is going to be that key. So if you're in a place with any kids, schools, anybody that you don't trust using it, you can take that key out and then this cutter is completely unoperational. Continuing on here, you have your on button here, which I actually am going to turn on right now to show you another feature that we changed from the Cut True 22S to the 23S, which is you're going to see that hone button here. So before on that 22S, you had to manually crank that back gauge to the back of the machine. Whereas on this machine, all you need to do is bring it to the front. And once you get past a certain point, you have your LED display giving you your exact measurements and where you want to cut. So actually, I'm going to throw some paper in this machine here. Lifting my plexiglass cover. I'm actually going to move this back a little bit more to about 10 inches. So once I get that to 10 inches, the cool thing about this manual back gauge is once you pull this out, you can spin that and move it all you want, and that cut's not going anywhere. Your cut is stagnant, so it's safe to move, and you can have that good cut. So I'm actually going to run this machine right here. Now I did that without the clamp, and you might have noticed the paper getting scrunched a little bit and pushed up. So that's one of the key points about this. See, without that clamp, it actually didn't even cut fully through. So what I'm going to do here is I can put that back down and then use this manual spindle guided clamp, which is one of the most important features of this machine. That's why I kind of saved it for the end. So now that it's fully tight, and as you'll see, I'm slowly moving that further and further, and that's one of the key aspects of that spindle guided clamp, because you can increase that incremental small turns, increasing or decreasing that pressure to how you want it. So now that the paper's where I want it to be, as you see, it was a much cleaner cut. It went all the way through this time, unlike before. You know, this is the Cut True 23S, meaning semi-automatic cutter. It's one of the 4 types of cutters that we offer here at Formax. So going through the line, it's manual cutters like our 16M 23S or 27S for semi-automatic. Then moving on, we have the Cut True 28, 29A, which are automatic cutters. So I'm actually going to go over the 28A next, which is fully automatic. So unlike the 23S, which had the automatic blade, but manual back gauge and manual clamp, the 28A has automatic blade, clamp, and back gauge, giving you a whole different feel and a lot more automation. So I'm actually going to turn this machine on, and you saw me bring that back gauge to the front of that machine, but once this loads up and I touch the screen here, this machine's actually going to calibrate to the back of the machine as well. Now this one does it automatically, but if you had a manual gauge like the 22S before, you could imagine how tiresome and cumbersome that would be. So just going through some key features of the 28A, you do have a stand you have to build just like the 23S. So this is going to be a 4-piece stand you'll have to build and put the cutting head on top. Moving forward, you have the face of the machine, similar to the 23S in style. It has some of the same features with the 2-button operation. So like I said in the 23S, if I get in front of here and I use those buttons, my hands are safe from that blade and far away. And Travis, if you go to the safety camera curtain, or safety, yeah. If you break that safety curtain, you'll see that that blade line, it shows red. That means this machine is fully unoperational. The machine will pause at any moment. If the blade's down, if the clamp is down, if anything's in motion, it's going to pause entirely. So moving forward, you have the back gauge adjustments here where you can give this a turn and you can, as you'll see, the screen moving to wherever you want. And that's just for smaller adjustments. Like if I wanted to cut this ream of paper, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click the screen there and put it at 5 inches. And now you can see that back gauge moving to that 5-inch mark, where I'll actually use this wooden paper push that comes standard with all of our cutters. And I'll push this entire ream of paper right against that back gauge and then right across the side. This paper push is actually more important than you think because it keeps your hands away from that blade. It's safe for pushing that paper against. So going through the screen here before I make the cut, you have your dial telling you exactly where that back gauge is sitting. You can switch that to centimeters or inches, however you like it. You have your eject button, which will push that paper forward after you cut it. You have your back gauge calibration, which you saw at the beginning. That just goes to the back to give it a reset. And then you have your cut and eject button. Programmable jobs. So this actually stores about 100 jobs, and you can copy, paste, delete however you want them. But this is great if you're outsourcing or if you have a lot of different jobs that you plan on doing. And then moving on to some of my favorite features of this machine actually. It'll give you pictures and a rundown of how to exactly replace the knife blade and give you step-by-step instructions with pictures, which is one of my favorite features. And then it also does the same thing for oiling gears or anything like that. But this is more of the nitty-gritty of the machine, the settings. This is more for servicing dealers who want to know more about the machine. And as I mentioned at the beginning, it is about 2 to 3 months out. We are still putting a little bit more research into it and learning as much as we can. But if you have any questions about this machine specifically, please reach out to your Formax account executive. So what I'm going to do here actually is I'm going to make a cut. So I'm going to put my 2-hand operation here, keeping my hands away from the blade. And you'll see it split the entire ream right in half and then push that next cut forward. So I'll actually just make another cut while I have it here. And you see it didn't push it forward too much. That's because that back gauge is already up to basically the front of the machine. And one really important thing to note about our cutters, if I take this single piece of paper and I try sliding that under, we actually include rubber teeth. And you might get a better look on the 29A, but there's rubber teeth in the bottom of the back gauge here, preventing any media from sliding to the back of the machine or you losing any media to keep your hands away from that cutting area. If this 18.9-inch cutting mouth isn't really big enough for you, or you need bigger medias, then that's where the 29A comes in. So this 29A is, again, fully automatic like that 28A, but it has a 20-inch cutting width, giving you that much more versatility for applications or environment. So going through just a little bit here, the 29A, this is actually how it comes. Fits in a standard doorway already on the stand. And then, just like all the other cutters, we offer multiple safety features. So you have your key for operation, your emergency stop button, two-hand operation, as you can see from multiple angles, that you keep your hands safely away from the cutting blade. And then your safety curtain. So I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but it will actually pull up as soon as you break that safety curtain. Continuing through the face of your machine, you have your main on and off switch, and then you have your micro adjustments here. This is extremely important. It's a little bit different than you saw on the 28A, which could do a little bit larger back gauge adjustments, but for this one specifically, it goes up to the 100th of an inch. So it's actually really important if you want to get dialed into exactly where you want it. So quick notes about this machine. It is a 220 volt machine. You will need a space and power sign off for this, but it does fit in a standard doorway. So that's kind of the differences between the 28A and the 29A, because this is 110 volt versus 220 volt. So it's a big difference, and it's just whatever environment you're in determines which machine. So just going through a little bit about the screen here is, right now you have absolute mode. This gives you absolute control of the back gauge, is how I like to see it. So you can move that front and back to wherever you want it. And like I said, you can use that micro adjustment down there to get it sitting where you want it to. Moving down, you have your incremental mode. This incremental mode, if you wanted to cut 2 sheets off a page in increments, then this would be the perfect mode for you, because after that every 2-inch cut, it'll push the media forward for that next 2-inch. One of my favorite buttons here is the eject button. So once you press that, actually, it'll move that back gauge up 3 inches, push your media forward, and then reset back to where it originally was. Moving forward here, you have your auto mode. This is where you can program and list all your jobs. This saves up to 100 jobs. And this is actually really cool because our marketing department actually uses this for the catalogs, which I'll be showing you after this. So you just save your 3 steps here, and you can skip any steps you want if you already have your first step done or anything like that. But I will be showing you this after, where there's 3 steps in cutting and setting our catalogs up. Moving forward, you have your card cutting settings here. If you're outsourcing or doing business cards semi-regularly, this would be a perfect thing for you. If you are doing this business cards pretty constantly and consistently, your Formax account executive might recommend you a business card cutter, one of our flash cards. But if you are outsourcing this and you are doing it semi-regularly, you can set up the start, the stripe, and the gap, and then do that business card cutting with that back gauge automatically going to where you need it to for each cut. And then just like the 28A, the options and the settings, that's kind of where the nitty-gritty of the machine is. If you're one of our servicing dealers, this is where you'll get all that good information. Everything you need to know about the machine is going to be all in here for you to use. Now going back to the auto mode, where I'm actually going to run this program. So it's at program number 1, step number 1. So I'm just going to hit program start. And I'm going to take my wooden push block, comes standard with all of our cutters. I'm going to take this down here and push this against the back gauge. And make that first cut. Now, programs are pretty important for these cutters and cutters alike, because if you have new users, constant users, changing users, then this would be a great thing, because you can just start the program, you don't have to learn anything, and it'll do everything for you. So now it's ready for cut number 2, where I'm actually going to turn this, trim the top face of this, set up my next cut. And now it's on step number 3. Let's turn it one more time, just to trim that last edge. And there you have 3 catalogs that we could send out to any of you dealers. If you do want some of these, reach out to your Formax account executive and we'll be sure to send you some. Now, just a quick overview of the 29A. As I mentioned, the 28A and the 29A kind of have overlapping environments and where they sit in, but there's a lot of key differences that you want to note, and that's where your Formax account executive can come in. We can help you discern which machine is best for your customers and which environments they're in. So for example, that 29A has that 20-inch cutting width that I mentioned earlier. That'll be good for all those print shops, anything that's doing a lot larger media, because they'll be wanting to do that. They'll be wanting to have that ability to do that larger media, like 13 by 19. Whereas in the 28A, it has an 18.9-inch mouth where you'll be doing that 12 by 18 if you're doing the short side first, but there's a little bit less versatility. And the big difference is going to be that 110 volt versus that 220 volt. So a lot of print shops have that dedicated power, but a lot of smaller real estate agencies or marketing departments might not have that dedicated power, where a 210 volt would be really perfect for them. You know, going back to the Cut True 23S, I just want to bring up a few little points about it. The 23S it's one of the best machines for that sub 5,000 market. Any of its competitors are really about $1,500 off, and that doesn't include the stand. So the Cut True 23S is really good for any. I was talking to a coworker today who said Etsy shops, DIY shops. It's really good for any of those markets because you saw how effective it was. The main thing about this machine is that clamp. It's super important to know that clamps for cutters are very important. When people are looking to buy a cutter, there's kind of 4 things they really focus on, and that's going to be the price, the application, the environment, and then the clamp you need/have. So 23S, for example, is great for booklets because you can apply a certain amount of pressure with that spindle-guided clamp, which is different than competitors, I'd like to mention, because they have fast action lever clamps where you have kind of a set pressure, where for this you can have incremental pressure with that spindle-guided clamp. So for a sub 5,000 machine, this is going to be one of the best options out there for a semi-automatic machine. Now, if you are looking for something automatic, that's where the 28A comes in. This is coming out in 2 to 3 months, but it does have everything you need. It's a sub $13,000 cutter. It's a hole in the market that we think should do really well in. Fully automatic, fully programmable, really great machine. And for the price, you can't really beat it. But programmable jobs is a huge benefit for this machine because, like I mentioned for the 29A, if you have a lot of new users, a lot of different users, you can just save those jobs and you can really run whatever you want with the machine doing everything for you. Very easy learning curve. And then the 110 power is a really important aspect of the machine. If you're not in a position where you can afford something like the 29A or the power isn't something you can swing, then that's where the 110 power 28A is perfect for you. It can do really anything the 29A can for those large, smaller medias, and with that smaller cutting width, it really will do anything you need it to. I think that's about all the overview I have. Travis, unless you have any questions for me.
Thanks, Sean. A good one that was asked in the chat is, could you just go through the difference between the manual, semi-automatic, and automatic cutters that we offer?
Yeah. So the manual cutters is going to be manual cutting, manual blade, manual cutting, manual clamp, and then manual back gauge. So for semi-automatic cutters, you're going to have the automatic cutting, the manual back gauge, and the manual clamp. For the 27S, it's just going to be that manual back gauge. So there is going to be differences between some semi-automatics versus others. And then automatic is going to be the automatic blade, clamp, and back gauge. And then there's hydraulic cutters, which we also do offer. The 29A specifically has a hydraulic version, which is pretty important because when we say fully hydraulic cutters, what Formax means is fully hydraulic clamp and blade. So that blade will give you extra power, and that clamp will have smaller incremental changes, which sometimes is more important than having a fully hydraulic blade as well.
Thanks. If you don't mind, could you just talk through the 28A? Does it come on its stand, or how should dealers expect that unit to come to them?
Right, so the 28A does fit in a standard doorway, but it does not come on its stand. The stand does have to be built after you get it, and then you lift the cutting head onto that stand.
That's great. Final and important one, just replacement supplies for these machines.
Right. So all the cutters that we offer, they have two consumables, the replacement blade and the replacement cutting sticks. We do recommend sometimes that you get a replacement blade to start, because if something chips or if something dulls, you want to have that something extra, or if you need to sharpen the first one, then that second blade will be something that's really useful for you. And then the cutting sticks. We do sell packets of those, but the cool thing about the cutting sticks is that one cutting stick you can turn that 4 times, and on each side there's 2 different sides where that blade will hit. So if you do see some skewing, or you do see your media shifting a little bit, you might just want to switch that cutting blade and turn it around, and you'll have perfect cuts going forward.
Let's take one more look here. There's 2 more that just popped into the chat. One more for the 28A. The question is, what power does it take?
Okay. 28A is 110 volt power, so that's kind of the big key to this machine. It's one of the most important factors, because fully automatic without changing any voltages is one of the best parts of this machine.
The next one is a question, do we have any cutters larger than the 20-inch cutting area?
Yeah, so the largest cutter that we offer is going to be the 31H at a 28-inch cutting width. Those hydraulic cutters are really a beast. They're built for a lot of high volume environments. Just like the 29A, the 31H is rated for 2 shifts of operation. So you really get what you put in on that machine, and the more you use it, the better it's going to be.
And the last one, just a question, looking at the picture on the website, it shows the 29A with side tables. Are those optional, or are those included with the machine?
Those are optional.
That's great. Sean, that's all we got today.
Well, thank you. I want to thank you all for joining. I'm sorry if I was speed running through that. It was my first webinar, so I was a little bit nervous. I am a little bit sweaty, but I want to appreciate you all for joining. And if you have any questions, and if you didn't catch anything, please reach out to your Formax account executive, and they'll get you all the right answers.